All right, everyone. Thank you, Monica, for the introduction earlier. So the title of my talk is Marking History, Progress and Insights into the Study of Backprinting. During the 20th century, manufacturers of photographic paper occasionally applied markings to the reverse of their papers. These markings, or backprints, were often inked logos containing the manufacturer's name and/or the brand type of the paper. Manufacturers use backprinting to increase brand visibility. We know this, but we also know that they serve practical purposes in terms of processing the papers. Several AGFA backprints containing dots, lines, and other graphic elements were used to specify processing instructions. Recent translations of Dr. Walter Harnug's Handbuch der AGFA Fotopapiere, published in 1955 in Germany, reveal that the double lines placed above and below the AGFA Lupex and AGFA Brovira papers indicated high gloss surfaces. These double lines help the printers to actually distinguish the glossy surfaces from semi-matte and matte papers that were wet during processing. But not all manufacturers of photographic paper use backprinting, but for those that did, backprinting can be incredibly useful for the dating and authentication of photographic prints due to differences in their graphic design over time. And I just want to show you this great example from Gevaert on the screen. Chronological shifts in backprinting designs are evident from studying AGFA and Kodak papers, both of which, with some exceptions, consistently use backprinting to denote their papers. Many of these shifts can be subtle, such as superficial differences in typeface, size, or even positioning of the text. As you can see in this example of two Velox brand papers produced by Kodak, on the left is an early backprint produced by Kodak London that uses the brand name Velox in capital letters on a diagonal repeat. On the right is a similar Velox backprint, but with larger font and broader lettering. Many subtle differences and shifts in Kodak and AGFA backprints have been previously reported by Paul Messier and were documented in the 2007 backprinting project. Now, this earlier backprinting project, it consisted of backprints in the Lens Media Lab archive of photographic paper that were originally documented in 2007 by Paul Messier and Christina Finlayson. During this project, historic paper samples from manufacturer sample books and packages of unexposed papers were surveyed for backprinting. Out of the 3,000 the samples that were assessed, only 278 examples of backprinting were discovered. Once compiled, these specimens were scanned, then organized by manufacturer and data production, and then they were uploaded onto a password-protected backprinting website. Now, fast forward a few years, in 2023, the Lens Media Lab at Yale's Institute for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage had the opportunity to revisit this 2007 project as part of its comprehensive effort to catalog and to characterize its archive of historic photographic papers. This extensive survey widened the scope of the former project to include manufacturers such as Fuji, Leonard, and Gevaert, and to also distinguish between subsidiary companies such as Kodak Australia, Kodak London, and companies before and after mergers. Of the 7,174 papers examined in 2023, 788 exhibited backprints. And we are very excited to share that each of these markings can be accessed on the newly reformatted backprinting website pictured here, and you can access this right now with this handy QR code on the screen. And I'll show this later in the presentation. Now, to access the new website, users will need a username and password, which is shared by going to the main page and clicking on the Here button, which you can see highlighted in blue. After clicking on this button, an email will appear for you to fill out a brief description of your research aims. Once this is sent back to the website administrator, the username and password will be automatically sent back to you. And we're doing this because we want to keep track of the users who use this site. This gives us validation and also insight into how this information is being distributed. So as for the 2023 methodology, how we made decisions on selecting the paper. So the backprints were taken directly from unexposed paper packages or manufacturer sample books containing prints. Like the original survey, only fiber-based silver gelatin papers were included. Photo postcards were excluded. Dating. The date ranges presented on the website derive from the specimens of paper. Specimens were dated using expiration dates on the packages. They were usually 1 to 2 years after the manufacturer date, publication dates of sample books, or context clues from packages or images when dates were not present. Now, one very important thing to note is that we are making no claim on the duration, the prevalence, or the actual date ranges of these backprints. The only thing that we can know for certain that this backprint is associated with a particular date. When we provide a range of dates, it's out of the earliest occurrence or the earliest specimen in our collection and the latest occurrence or the latest specimen in our collection. We do not have a comprehensive collection of all photographic papers, as much as we wish we did, but we do have a slice or a window. And we can state that the backprint existed in that range, but we do not know the origin of the backprint. We expect the actual date range of the backprint will be broader than the date ranges we report. Okay, and then the LML created a coding system to classify these backprints. This is an example from Gevert pictured on the screen. The codes reflect our best judgment to distinguish major variants. This site is not a comprehensive catalog of backprints. There are many more markings that exist for 20th century photographic paper. And our coding is simply a sequential list and should not be confused with chronological order. We tried to set it up that way, but there's lots of overlap in many of the backprints. And also, we want to be able to add to this coding system, when we find new backprints that we don't have in our collection. Imaging. The 788 backprints were systematically scanned using an Epson flatbed scanner, and I'm not going to go into the particular details of the scanning process, but one very important thing to note is that the specimen papers were scanned with their sheet edges aligned to the edges of the scanner, and this allows us to show more accurate marking angles of that repeat pattern, and so we're able to assess diagonals or logos printed on a straight line, etc. Images were cropped to show a single instance of the backprint, and this is an example of the image sets that are presented on the details page for each backprint. The sets consist of 3 images on the reverse of a paper specimen, as well as packaging or sample book images and cataloging metadata. Throughout the site, clicking on images will link to details for, that you can download for higher resolution image files. Now, with the updated website, we can more effectively visualize occurrences of specific patterns and designs, such as the popularity of the, for example, K2 type and K5 type backprints in Kodak London and Kodak Australia papers. You can see that the K2 type, which is on the left of the screen, contains velox that's flanked by 2 periods. And the K5 type actually contains velox that's encircled by an oval. So both of these were common in Kodak London and Kodak Australia papers. Or that, for example, in the late 1950s, early 1960s, when AGFA begins to incorporate single, double, triple, or quadruple dots placed underneath its single name logo AGFA, there are over 80 occurrences of this design that were discovered in the LML collection, revealing that the AGFA dot backprint persisted past the 1965 AGFA-Gevert merger into the early 1980s. Now, we're still trying to unravel what the dots mean. There are many avenues for future research with this. And then for some fun recent authentication cases, in 2023, when we were putting all this together, the LML was actually contacted by a European forensics expert who needed assistance with with an authentication case involving a group of contemporary photographs suspected to be forgeries. The investigator needed assistance with the authentication and dating of a Kodak backprint, this is the one pictured here, and used the backprinting website to compare Kodak backprints from within that date range. But you don't have to be a forensics expert to benefit from the research available on this website. Historians of photography, as well as anyone looking to gain insight into the dating of a print or processing instructions, would undoubtedly benefit from using this website. And this new backprinting research and website would not have been possible without the help of the individuals listed here. Thank you all for your support, and please be sure to visit the website.